Welcome. Today I will be discussing the topic of my independent study project, which is fashion sustainability. To begin with, I realize that the topic of fashion sustainability is a very broad and general topic in which there is more than one aspect to consider. Therefore, I have decided to focus my studies on two specific brands and examine the extent of which these fashion brands are being sustainable in their designs and their business. My thesis statement reads, fast fashion brands such as Zara and H&M have acknowledged this problem by becoming very sustainable in terms of incorporating more sustainable fabrics and recycled materials into their garments, in addition to recycled bins in every store which encourages recycling of clothing. If more awareness is made towards this issue, then there would be a significant impact for consumers, merchants, the environment, and businesses. Therefore, my essay will examine two different businesses, being Zara and H&M as mentioned, and I will be discussing how each business has adopted a variety of different approaches, whether it's the incorporation of sustainable fabrics, recycled materials, or recycling bins in their stores, which promotes more sustainability and a more environmentally friendly approach. Since the topic of my project is fashion sustainability, more specifically fast fashion with a focus on two fast fashion brands being Zara and H&M, it is important to take into consideration what fast fashion really means. To begin with, it is a very accessible form of clothing in the fashion sector. This is because it refers to cheap, trendy clothing, which is usually inspired by what is seen on luxury fashion runways and immediately adapted into high street versions in rapid production amounts. Because of so, it has become very popular amongst consumers because of a variety of different factors, which include its affordability and its easy and simple designs. However, the most important aspect to consider as to why this world of fast fashion is very popular is mainly because of its affordability, in which a garment can be attained for a very low price point. However, having said that, this means that the clothing that is being purchased at low price points does not really have a very good quality, and the materials used might not be completely natural, such as cotton or linen, and that it may produce more harmful effects on the environment, as will be discussed later on. Because fast fashion is very popular amongst the majority of consumers, there are a variety of different fashion brands which fall under the category of fast fashion, some of which include Zara, Topshop, ASOS, River Island, H&M, Gap, Uniqlo, Target, U-Look, and Mango, just to name a few. These brands offer, as mentioned earlier, clothing that is usually inspired by the runways, and it's usually very, very affordable. And that is why they are some of the top global brands that cater to consumers' tastes and interests. Despite the fact that fast fashion brands are extremely popular amongst consumers, it is worth noting that there is a variety of different risks, or rather side effects, that these businesses might have on the individual and the environment as a whole. Firstly, fast fashion brands can introduce new clothing designs into their collections at more frequent intervals, which means a natural decrease in the quality of the clothing, and more so on the low price points to produce such garments. This means that clothing will not last in one's wardrobe, especially when taken into consideration that most of these items are made with low quality materials that have harmful effects on the environment, as will be discussed later on. Such harmful effects will include high CO2 emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, and water and energy wastage. As the author Lucy Siegel said, fast fashion isn't free. Someone, somewhere is paying. In this scenario, the someone or somewhere that is paying is the environment. Therefore, it is important to take into consideration when buying into fast fashion the quality and the longevity of the item and the impact that it will have on the environment. There has been a rise in a variety of different social media platforms, online reports, businesses, charities, and organizations that are having a direct impact in raising awareness about the topic of fashion sustainability and a rising concern about the environment and the harmful effects that fast fashion brands are having on it. One of them is WRAP, which is an acronym for Waste and Resource Action Program. The WRAP Association is a UK charity that aims to deliver information and prompt actions from producers, businesses, and consumers on the various effects that clothing might have on the environment, whilst adopting the notion of reinvent, rethink, and redefine how we use our materials. According to numerous studies conducted by WRAP, it has been estimated that there would be a 10 to 20% reduced water and waste footprint in the UK if the UK changes its approach in the way that their clothing is supplied, used, and disposed. This by effect would be very beneficial for businesses because it could save fashion brands an estimate of £3 billion annually if there is a cut in the harmful resources that are used to produce such garments. Therefore, organizations such as WRAP are taking into consideration the harmful effects that fast fashion is having on the environment and the production of low-quality clothing. Therefore, by delivering such information, they are raising awareness for the consumer and for the average human on the various effects that clothing might have on the environment whilst hoping to adopt a more responsible approach within consumers. In one of the published reports on the WRAP organization's website, there is a variety of different statistics and data that are outlined by WRAP on the various ways that fast fashion brands are harmfully affecting the environment. One of the most surprising facts, as outlined by WRAP, is the fact that the average UK home consumes around £4,000 of clothing per year. However, only 30% of these garments have not been up to use, especially that they don't fit anymore, which by effect is one of the many reasons of the UK's yearly 5% water and carbon footprint. However, if such clothing items are given a life extended by just an additional 3 months of active use per item, then that would consequently lead to an astonishing 5 to 10% decrease in the overall waste, carbon, and water footprints in the world. Moreover, this alludes to the overall approach adopted by consumers of wanting more, which is an attitude that primarily leads to an added consumption of clothing, which is rarely up for use, rather than re-wearing an item more than once. Although this might cost more than a regular low-quality item, it can last in one's wardrobe for a long time and can be eventually handed down to others. Other studies conducted by WRAP have found that consumers generally think that suppliers or clothing merchandisers include little to no information regarding the environmental impact of the clothing that they buy. If such information is provided, then they think that would strengthen the brand value and raise more awareness amongst consumers. In terms of the actual materials and fibers used in garments, it has been concluded by studies that fiber fabric and garments supply contribute to 1/3 of the waste, half of the carbon impact, and over 90% of the water footprint of clothing used in the UK. These are all baffling statistics when being taken into consideration, especially that one cannot imagine how much effect a piece of clothing might actually have on the environment, where there is an eventually build-up of wanting more and more in fast fashion. Now, I will be looking into the harmful materials that are being used in fast fashion brands' clothing. To begin with, most of the clothing that consumers purchase from retailers are either elastic, polyester, or lycra. The reason that consumers utilize these specific materials is because they are very cheap and they are considered to be easy care fibers, which is less costly and faster to produce for merchants. However, these materials are not leaving a great environmental impact, in which some of them are very hard to recycle and create much more pollution. For instance, nylon may take up to 40 years to decompose, and polyester is usually made from petroleum. Because of the affordability and availability of materials such as polyester, there has been a demand for man-made fibers, especially polyester, which has doubled in the last 15 years. The manufacturing process of materials such as polyester consumes vast amounts of energy, which requires huge amounts of crude oil, which release emissions that include volatile organic compounds, particulate matter, and acid gases such as hydrogen chloride, all of which can cause or aggravate respiratory diseases. Volatile monomers, solvents, and other byproducts of polyester production are emitted in the wastewater from polyester manufacturing plants. After all of these damage that these garments are having on the environment in their production process, the unwanted clothing by consumers are thrown away, which are ending up in landfills, where the harmful materials of these garments release toxic chemicals as they decompose in a matter of decades. And as mentioned as earlier, a very popular material such as nylon takes 40 years to decompose, thus having a direct impact on the environment and the air that people breathe. Therefore, it is important to realize that clothing are having such a direct impact on the environment because when thinking of things like crude oil and uh, um, uh, and clothing ending up in landfills, it's especially crucial to consider how long these clothing are taking time to decompose, especially that they are man-made fibers that are not natural, and the responsibility that comes within it from the consumer's end. Such baffling statistics as outlined earlier have come to the attention of fast fashion brands such as the likes of Nike, H&M, C&A, Zara, Mango, in addition to a variety of different others, in which they are adopting a variety of different approaches that are helping serve back to the environment. For example, brands such as Nike, C&A, and H&M have taken into account the impact of such and have adopted the Circular Fibers Initiative, which is an initiative that hopes to create a new global textile industry that is reinforced by the circular economy values in hopes of giving back to the environment and inspiring other fashion brands to go green. There is a consideration of materials, the supply chain, and the production process of a garment, in which this leads fashion brands to delve into each of these different aspects from a wider lens. Moreover, Zara is aiming to go fully green, in which the materials they use are natural, such as cotton, polyester, and linen, which will be mainly sourced from organic producers, sustainable or recycled producers, as outlined by the Zara's parent company's Inditex CEO, who said that the use of those fibers plus a semi-synthetic fiber called viscose account for 90% of the raw materials used by the brands. Inditex said it will use all sustainable viscose by 2023. This was all said by the CEO of Inditex's company, Pablo Isla. This will hopefully make Zara hope for change in the entire sector and will inspire other brands to adopt a similar approach. Additionally, Zara and H&M have installed recycling bins in their stores, which encourages recycling. This is especially relevant and related to their Closing the Loop initiative, which provides customers with the chance to either drop their unwanted clothes to a local store or through post, which encourages recycling, and a give-in and a give-back approach, which allows garments to have a new life rather than going to waste. This is also evidenced with H&M's Old Garment Collection program, which is very similar to Zara's Closing the Loop program, in which H&M stores have installed a variety of recycled bins through their Old Garment program, where all of the clothing that is brought in is categorized into 3 different groups. The first is rewear, which refers to garments that can be worn again as second-hand items. The second is reuse, in which the garments that can no longer function as clothing can be used as textiles for other purposes such as cleaning cloths. And the third is recycle, where garments can be reused into new fibers which are used to manufacture products such as insulating materials for the auto industry. Presentation, and I hope that this presentation delivered you all with new information regarding the various effects that fast fashion brands may have on the environment, how fast fashion brands are adopting new approaches to diminish these effects, and increasing a sense of responsibility within consumers to shop smartly. Thank you.